Good morning. Good morning, one and all. If you watch my videos, you realize that I pick on people. I'm not going to call on you by name because I think that you're new to all this, but I received a Gmail from a person that's been watching various bow channels and wants to get started in making bows and wanted some advice. And so I'm going to say, this is my advice if you want to get started making bows. There's so many ways to do it. You know, you could go out and you could get a bandsaw and a belt sander, and you could get all these various tools and stuff like that. But let's go back to the beginning, and since it's my advice, how really I got started. The first thing is information. Until I found good information on how bows work and a little premiere on various native styles, I was a lost pup in the woods. I had a book, I'm not going to name it, but it gave really bad advice, and I wasted the lives of so many saplings and so much time on my part because of that bad advice. And so the book that got me started being successful was The Bows and Arrows of the Native Americans by Jim Ham. Unfortunately, it's not as nowhere near as expensive as the complete set of the traditional Boyer's Bibles, which, good information, I own volumes 1 through 3. I might pick up 4, I don't know. 1 through 3 serves me well. I don't regret that. I just was watching a Jack Handey video. Jack Handey and Shinbone, you know, I'm going to say they're on the periphery because people think of bows and arrows, and they don't necessarily always go to stone points. And the tools that are really at the root of everything, stone tools. But Jack Handey was going to build a bow modeled after, I think, a Shawnee bow, Osage orange, taking the measurements out of Encyclopedia of Native American Bows and maybe Arrows. I'm not too sure of the title here, but it's the Encyclopedia. And that was also written by Jim Ham, and I finally got around to, a couple days ago, buying this. Found a used one on Amazon for almost nothing. And so, information. Bow channels, of course. You know, Clay Hayes, and Ryan Gill, and VFC Archery. There's so many good bow makers out there, but there's also a lot of hacks. And so, you know, be able to wade through the information, pick out where you want to go. But what I would say, in the email it mentioned tools. The tools, what kind of tools should I get? Now this is my short list of stuff that I started out on that still serves me well. The first is a good hatchet. This was a roofer's axe. I need to pound this down and put a wedge in there. But this was a roofer's axe, even though it's a hatchet. They had the nail puller and it had the hammer back here. And I took it to a blacksmith, and he took that hammer and turned it into a scraper, which I can use for a limited woodworking tool, but I use this for doing green hides, and typically cow hides. I'd go to a butcher and I'd get green cow hides and I would prepare them and stuff like that for various reasons. But I call this my wonder tool. I ground it so it's flat on this side and the bevel is all on this side. It's not symmetrical with a bevel on both sides, flat like a broad axe, because I'm right-handed, and when I'm working down bow staves, I like that flat side on this side. And you can do that with, you know, whatever tomahawk or hatchet you have. You know, re-grinding it, because it is so much more effective. Personally, I mean, I find it that way to work down a bow stave. Second of all, you have to have, well, you don't have to, but it really, really is a good thing, and it's simple to make, a tillering stick and a tillering string, a very long tillering string. So far, let's recap. A hatchet, what are these things? A knife. This is not the best knife in the world. I mean, it's not the highest quality steel, but this is and I don't know where my original one is. Western Cutlery W84. A knife. Gotta have a knife. It's not, again, the best steel, but I can keep it sharp. And the original one that I had somewhere, I broke the tip off and reground it, so it's a little shorter than this, but it still serves me, was what I made my first bow on. The sister to this one. I wound up buying this one later because I like it. The next is, I had spent so many hours reducing stuff with this Nicholson rasp. I still use it for on the tips and a little bit of handle if I need to. But let's replace this little rasp that doesn't do a whole lot with a farrier's rasp. This is a workhorse. This removes wood from everything, from Osage orange to maple to elm, whatever. A farrier's rasp. So look at, you could create bows easily and quickly. You don't even need sandpaper when you're scraping with a knife with these things and a tiller instrument. As far as information, I just remembered this. It irks me. It irks me to no end. And I understand, because not everyone is a forester or really researches wood. But let us stop calling wood by just its genus name. Okay, you're curious. Can you make a bow out of winged elm or American elm or red elm or hard elm or rock elm or name an elm? And you would go to can you make a bow out of winged elm? You're going to get all these forum things. Can you make a bow out of elm? Let's do maple, sugar maple. This is sugar maple. Can you make a bow out of sugar maple? You'll get, can you make a bow out of maple? Where I'm going with this is, stop. If you're asking questions or you're explaining things, these are to the bow makers that are out there already. Stop just using elm, maple, oak, ash, any of these things. I'm going to take elm for an example because results vary tremendously. I'm gonna put more wood on the fire after I'm done with this. There is more of a difference between winged elm or rock elm or white elm and red elm or American elm than there is between winged elm and white ash. Within the elms, the quality of bow woods varies so much. It is, I'm going to be harsh here, it's stupid. It's a dumbass move to say elm is a good bow wood. You have to say what kind of elm. You have to say what kind of maple, because there's a huge difference between silver maple and sugar maple. There's a, you get my drift? You're giving zero information if you say elm is a good bow wood, maple is a good bow wood. You can make bows out of all of them, but there's a hell of a difference between sugar maple and silver maple. There's a massive difference between winged elm, white elm, rock elm, and American elm. It's useless information just saying elm. Okay, my rant is over. I ranted. Now to demonstrate, I still have to get, it's not lined up perfectly. This is what I would call a stubborn wood. I heated it. I dried it, and when I dried it in the jig, I had a fan blowing on it because moving air works well. And what happens is I'll get a bend in the handle and it'll straighten up and then it'll go back, which is a good sign. You want to you gotta love stubborn wood. And so what I'm doing now is, and if I get some strength follow from tillering it while it's still somewhat green, I'll just bend a little recurve into the tips. But it's not bad. I'm not going to stress it too much on the tillering stick. And it is green. It's going to raise and draw weight. But just to demonstrate, I'm going to do a little bit of this. I worked it down with one of these things to a point where then I can work it down with this chainsaw. You can either mark it with a pencil or do it by eye, parallel limbs, about 2 inches wide, and then taper it. And you can taper it by eye. You don't need to measure the tips, you know. Do it by eye. If it looks even, it's even enough. And then you start with the tillering, being very gentle. And It's not even, you know, I'll give it that, but this is just a demonstration how you can work that belly down really fast is with one of these things. I'm going to set this tip on my foot because I don't want to get it dirty. Whoop, it just slipped off my foot. And I'm going to be very gentle here, just demonstrating. Needs to bend more here. I'm not going to remove too much wood because I'm videoing and I don't want to be stupid and mess it up. And then you've got the tool marks here, and the tool marks on this will vary. This is a technique. If I'm doing this, a lot of sideways movement, I'm going to get like gouges in here, but you're going to get less if you're pretty careful about moving it fore and aft. And I got those tool marks in there, and you're saying I need to sand them out. Well, no, you don't. I'm going to scrape them out, and you're going to have to trust me on this. I have removed most of the tool marks. Now another thing we all need to be able to do is, I'm going to relieve this a little bit, is stop. Let's say I've got a tool mark running in here. I don't want to reduce the weight. I want to tiller it. And let's say I gotta keep doing this. I gotta keep doing this. You have to be able to tell yourself stop. Live with the tool mark. That's a feature of guys. I'm gonna be judgmental here. Is sometimes us guys not only think that if a little is good, a lot is better. We also have a hard time struggling with knowing when to shut up, and we also have a hard time knowing when to stop. Sometimes you feel your body moving and your mind is screaming, stop, stop, and you can't. You have to be able to just stop and walk away. But anyway, that's about it. Another thing this is like super springy. You can just tell, even though this is not all the way dry, sugar maple, Acer saccharum. Not maple. This isn't maple. This is sugar maple. This is sugar maple. This is hard maple, not maple. Is get into sinew backing early. I purchased my Bows and Arrows of Native Americans by Jim Ham. I understand. You know the light bulb. I know how to make bows now. I cut down saplings. And sometimes I was kind of foolish, you know, because when you're starting out, you want to make just a D bow, which is a great thing. Just a nice flat bow. You know, it looks like a D. No narrow, deepened handle, although that's not rocket science. Most of the time, I was pretty good about not getting too big of a sapling. You know, you're out here and you're looking. I'm driving my car. My wife is wondering what I'm looking at. I'm looking for straight saplings, the right diameter. Oh, ironwood, you know, hop hornbeam. There's more than one kind of ironwood, hop hornbeam. I'm like, oh man, did you see that sugar maple sapling? Birch is, you can make bows out of birch. You know, be selective. Don't just jump at the first sapling. Don't, if you're starting out and you want to make just a D bow, don't feel the need to get anything more than maybe about a 2-inch diameter at the base sapling. You know, we always have this urge to go out and get a 6-inch tree, and then you have to split it, and then you have to carry all that stuff home when you just want to make a bow. Is a lot of the native bows that you would find in museums and stuff, you can see the pith in it because it was such a small sapling. You know, be selective. Be selective. Don't just start cutting down trees and wasting your time making it, because that perfect, whether or not, oh, red oak, sugar maple, hop hornbeam, and serviceberry, chokecherry, they're out there. And part of it is developing your eye for gathering. Oh, there's suckers coming from that tree that would make good arrows. Hopefully, you see where I'm going with this thing. Is being selective, not just rushing into things. If you're beginning and you want to learn the art of making bows, make it easier on yourself by not getting something that's too big right off the bat, kinky, or the wrong kind of wood. I've had a lot of people make comments, well, I'm going to practice on junk wood from the lumber yard. No, no, don't waste your time physically carving from a 2x4. First of all, it would probably be easier to shape something from a green sapling than it would be from a 2x4 that's not going to result in a bow. You know, don't waste your time. Be selective. Learn your trees. Get your reference material. Encyclopedia Bow and Arrows or whatever, Native Bows by Jim Ham, and the Bows and Arrows of Native Americans by Jim Ham. Jim Ham was tremendous. Traditional Boyer's Bibles if you want to spend some more money. You have your basic tools, or you can go out and get a bandsaw and stuff like that. But, you know, these things will allow you to make bows easily and quickly. And that's part of it, too. Don't grind away for 2 weeks with one of these stupid little things when you could spend 20 bucks and get something that's actually going to remove wood from everything, including Osage orange. And sinew backing, that's it. Once I began making bows successfully, D-bows, you know, just flat bows. That's my style. It didn't have, well, one of them did. One of my first bows was like this. But all the rest were just, you know, strips of wood, like an Algonquian style, you know, Eastern woodland bow, which worked. But here's the thing, the difference between me and a lot of bow makers is within 2-3 bows, I was sinew backing. It's easy to sinew back. It's more difficult to make it smooth and even so you don't see separations in the sinew and stuff. But I have never seen, even in really ugly sinew backing scenarios, where maybe even I had a bow like this big, 68 inches long, 2 inches wide, going to the tapers, where I only used 4 tendons, which by no means will cover this thing. But I've never seen a sinew-backed bow fail in tension. I would also suggest, unless you live in Florida, like Ryan Gill did a thing, I think it was in Primitive Archery Magazine, Tight Bond 3 with sinew backing, because he has to. It's Florida. It was a hickory bow, which, you know, absorbs a lot of moisture and is prone to string follow if you're in a very humid environment. Adding that to sinew, which doesn't like really humid environments. And Ryan took sinew, Tight Bond 3, hickory bow, and made a very good bow for Florida out of probably the 2 materials that don't want to be in Florida. I don't want to be in Florida either. I don't deal with heat. I think alligators are cool though. Well, you see, my point is if you live everywhere else, New Mexico, Arizona, Montana, Idaho, Michigan, you know, places that aren't burdened by excessive humidity, get into sinew backing right away. And I'd also stress, get into sinew backing unless you have to use Tight Bond 3 in humid or wet areas. Learn how to use hide glue. Get that viscosity finger down so you can, you know, that's it. I'm done talking. I really love this. Sugar maple, hard maple, it's the same thing. And how can you tell what the Jaka hardness, the modulus of elasticity, the modulus of rupture, and all this other stuff? Tensile strength. How can you find that for particular species of wood? Well, type it in there. Sugar maple. Wood database. Wood database. Because the wood database has all the pertinent data for all the woods, the physical characteristics, the strengths, the weaknesses, what it looks like. You know, information is your friend. This is such a cool bow. And I'm debating, you know, it's this thing. You can see the stripe of heartwood down there. It's a backwards bow, and I can tell that, like, the handle's off center because it tilts a little bit, but you know, it would be doable at this point. Now I was debating whether or not to sinew back it, but you know what? I want to have my caveman bow unbacked just to see if it works. Now I'm done.